Good afternoon, everyone. So we will continue from what we have discussed yesterday. We were talking about what is the concept of emotions. We did discuss about that how there exists a myth that an emotional person cannot make rational decisions, cannot have critical thinking, do not have the ability of logical reasoning. Okay? We have talked about it. And then we talked about it that how different researchers have proved beyond doubt that emotion is a very integral component of effective management, of building social capital, of ethical values, inculcation of ethical values, to arrive at sound judgment, to develop an environment of trust, fairness, right? So we have talked about it, how it helps to maintain your personality management, stability of the personality, harmony in the society. So we have talked about it, the role of emotions. Then we also talked about what are different types of emotions. For example, positive, negative emotions. For example, primary, secondary emotions. Then what is the concept of emotional intelligence? What are different theoretical perspectives as far as emotional intelligence is concerned? So whether it is Mayer and Salovey's perspective or it is Daniel Goleman's perspective. Mayer and Salovey's theory, we have talked about that there are four stages or four branch model. It is also known as the ability model, that an individual is said to be emotionally intelligent if he has the ability of emotional perception, he has the ability of emotional assimilation, understanding and management. So if the question comes with respect to direct question, Mayer and Salovey's model, or the question comes with respect to four branch model, or the question comes with respect to ability model, or simply that what are the traits of an emotionally intelligent person? So he should have all the four abilities. What are the building blocks of emotional intelligence? You can make reference to Mayer and Salovey's theory. On the same line, you can also make reference to Daniel Goleman's theory. So Daniel Goleman clearly says it is self-awareness, self-motivation, it is self-regulation, empathy and social skills. These are the 5 building blocks of emotional intelligence according to Daniel Goleman. Now, if the question specifically asks good enough, if it doesn't, then you have a choice whether you want to write Mayer and Salovey's perspective or you want to write Daniel Goleman's perspective. Absolutely your call. Is that very clear? Okay, so good afternoon everyone out there. Okay? Now, why did I write this statement again? Self-awareness is beginning of all wisdom. See, I think this weekend only you have your moral thinkers classes. So you will get a hang of it, how to write the answers. However, sometimes do you understand the challenge? जैसे essay में philosophical essays cannot be prepared beforehand. You can learn the art of writing philosophical essay, but which quotation would be given to you? How can you predict that? There are too many quotes. Similarly, in moral thinkers area also, which quotation they would give you, you can never predict. You can have a brief understanding of what was the perspective of Aristotle or Hobbes or Locke or Rawls' theory of justice. You can have a brief understanding, or Immanuel Kant, what he has talked about. You can know about these things, but you cannot exactly predict what statement would be given. Sometimes they can give you statement of Deen Dayal Upadhyay or Swami Vivekanand or Gandhi ji or Nelson Mandela. कितने extent तक तैयारी करोगे? वो तो possible होता नहीं है. ठीक है ना? So in that situation, you should just understand that how the questions can be addressed. ठीक है? So if you look at it, good afternoon everyone out there. So दीपांशु नहीं हो पाएगा बच्चे, चीज दोबारा रिपीट करना, क्लास के बाद जाके देख लेना ना. सेल्फ अवेयरनेस इज बिगनिंग ऑफ ऑल विजडम. 2-4 मिनट का होगा, देख लेना. मुझे इतना याद भी नहीं आएगा कि मैंने अब क्या बोला था. आई थिंक आई वॉज जस्ट टेलिंग कि मैंने कल क्या पढ़ाया है. हाँ, दिस इज व्हाट आई वॉज टेलिंग कि व्हाट आई हैव टॉट यू यस्टरडे. So self-awareness is beginning of all wisdom, a general understanding. So what is emotional intelligence? ठीक है. Now within emotional intelligence, what are, if I have to address, suppose करो ये question ही आ जाए, ठीक है. So can I start with the background? Did you understand? No, today is not the last class. I will be taking one more class. I was thinking initially I will conclude today, but then I'm thinking I will not because I want to teach something extra. अब ये मैं नहीं पढ़ाती हूँ, but I thought कि एक बार एक आइडिया दे दूं कि अगर इस तरह से कुछ आ जाए तो how can you approach that? So did you understand what has been done here? I've defined what is emotional intelligence, that it is the ability to recognize, understand and manage one's own emotions as well as that of others. Emotionally intelligent person is competent in 4 areas: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship management. However, the most critical component is self-awareness. Why? Because there are certain benefits of self-awareness. Very quickly write down benefits of self-awareness. Benefits of self-awareness. Write down benefits of self-awareness. Right. It helps in self-evaluation, comma, accepting constructive feedback. It helps in self-evaluation, comma, accepting constructive feedback. Second point. Those who are aware of their limitations, those who are aware about their limitation, it refrains them. Those who are aware about their limitations, it refrains them from setting up unrealistic goals. It refrains them from setting up unrealistic goals for oneself as well as for the organization. For oneself as well as for the organization. Next. Understanding one's own motivations and values. Understanding one's motivation and values helps the person enjoy what they do, and also keep them focused when they suffer a setback. Keeps them focused when they suffer a setback. Next. Ability to empathize with, next point, ability to empathize with those who are in similar situation creates great sensitivity. Ability to empathize with those who are in similar situation creates sensitivity towards any issue. Creates sensitivity in a person towards any issue. Creates sensitivity in a person towards any issue. It helps them in dealing with all kind of situation. It helps them in dealing with all kind of situation and behave appropriately in adverse situation. Appropriately in adverse situation. Clear for everyone? Is that clear? Now, with respect to the examples of self-awareness, remember I gave you an example yesterday. That was if you are stuck in traffic. You know why you are angry, because you are agitated, irritated because of getting stuck in traffic. So if you are self-aware about your emotions, you will be able to better manage and control them. One thing, let us say you are an administrator. You did not have self-awareness about the fact or the motivation behind you becoming a bureaucrat. You were not aware of it. You just came across this examination, you prepared for it, you cleared the examination without realizing that what is the purpose of being a bureaucrat. Once you are a bureaucrat, what should be your motivations? What should be your aspirations? You're not aware of it. And you were placed as a district magistrate. You indulged yourself in the act of corruption just to siphon off money. You did not realize that you are not only tarnishing your image, but overall bureaucracy is getting compromised because people are losing faith in public servants. So you should be self-aware. Do you have that caliber of, living your life for others? Do you have that in you to serve the nation? Do you have that aspirations for social service? You should be very clear with respect to your motivation. This is not about interview. Interview mein jo bolna hai bol dena. But you should be clear about your motivation. You want power, you want prestige, you want better marriage prospects, you want better status for your family in the society, you want to perform corruption, siphon of money, or you genuinely want to do social service, you want to work for the welfare of the marginalized sections. Self-awareness is very important. Otherwise, not only the individual is going to bear the consequences, it is going to, the large section of the society is going to suffer from that, right? So self-awareness is the key to all wisdom. So you can give these examples. For example, the administrative motivation, or you are stuck in the traffic, or if the family, nowadays what happens is that family are not aware about their duties, about their motivation. It is the responsibility of the parents to inculcate the right set of values among the children. But when the parents fail to realize, they are failed to be self-aware about their duties, responsibilities, strengths, limitations. So not only the family suffer, the child also suffer, and overall the future of the nation is getting compromised. So it is very important. So you can give these different set of examples. Choice is yours. You can pick up any example that you want. I am just giving you different range of examples from which you can pick. Is that clear? And finally, you can conclude. Then you can write, therefore, evaluation about, write down, therefore, examples you have to choose on your own. I have given you different set of examples. One, you are stuck in traffic. Another, what was the motivation behind becoming an administrative official? Or it can be the motivation, self-awareness among the parents vis-a-vis their responsibility towards value inculcation or socialization of child. ये better हो जाएगा. Towards socialization of child. Socialization of child. And once you have given these examples, you can conclude, write down the conclusion. Evaluation about self-awareness with respect to strength, weakness, responsibility, motivation, etc. is necessary as otherwise the person will fail, as otherwise the person will fail to identify and connect with the emotion of others. Will fail to identify and connect with the emotion of others. Fail to identify and connect with the emotion of others. नहीं, you don't have to just write one line में example. You have to explain. आप एक एग्जाम्पल देना, दो दे देना, लेकिन एक्सप्लेन करना. अदरवाइज फायदा क्या होगा? नहीं, एक लाइन में लिखने से थोड़ी ना होगा. ये तो मैंने यहां लिख दिया. You have to explain the example, the manner I have explained it. Is this clear? Very quickly, did you understand? If such question comes, how can you approach them? Ethics में they are not looking that you write a theory of Aristotle here. Aristotle ने एक statement दे दिया, बात खत्म हो गई. आपको पूरी theory नहीं समझानी है Aristotle की. What have you comprehended from the statement and how you can apply it in your everyday life? Can you give some example? Ethics is all about explaining the concept and giving examples to justify. Is that clear? That is all ethics is about. As far as example is concerned, I have discussed this example in yesterday's lecture also. Soumya, we have discussed this. I was telling that you should be aware. about your motivations in life. You should be aware about your responsibilities in life. You should be aware about your strengths and weakness in life. Suppose you have become an administrative official, but you yourself was not aware about the motivation behind becoming an administrative official. You believed everybody does it for social service, so you also did it. You did not realize what was your actual motivation. You were not aware about your true self. You wanted money. You wanted to pursue your economic values, and that is why you became. Now, once you have become, you are getting indulged in corruption because that was your true motivation behind becoming an administrative official. Now, if you indulge in corruption, it is not only you whose image is getting tarnished, or it is not only you who's getting affected. You need to understand, we have two types of relationships. One is public relation, other is private relation, right? Now, if in a private relation, you commit something, some error, something wrong, let us say adultery, okay? So who's getting impacted? You, your partner, your family, your child, okay? But if in public capacity you commit such kind of misappropriations, you commit an act of corruption, do you really think that the ramification is limited? No. It is going to impact a very large section of society. When the oxygen cylinders were not delivered, I'm generally saying कि हर एक हॉस्पिटल में एक बेसिक मिनिमम होता है, बट जब वो डिलीवर नहीं हुआ, जब प्लांट्स का प्रपोजल पास होने के बाद भी प्लांट्स नहीं बनाए गए, so do you think the ramification was only on the official who had not acted promptly, or the ramification was for the politician who has not given the funds, or it was for only the party? The entire citizenry has been impacted, right? So you should be very much aware about your motivations, especially if you are in a public domain. That is what I mean. Similarly, the responsibility of parents. Parents have to be self-aware that it is their duty, their responsibility to inculcate right kind of value system in their children. If you say you are busy to do that, if you don't have time, you should not have gone for the children. You cannot leave your child to be nurtured by the school or by the creche facility or by the daycare system. It is prime responsibility of the parents to inculcate the value, and you have to be self-aware about it. Otherwise, it would be very difficult for you to manage or understand or identify with the emotions of your child. तभी तो इतना ज़्यादा delinquency हो रही है आज. That is what I meant when I was explaining these examples. Soumya, I hope this is clear now. अरे यार अंकुश, अब ये सब मैं नहीं यहाँ पे कर रही. हाँ, बकैती मारने थोड़ी ना आए, पढ़ाई करते हैं. ये इंटरव्यूअर जाने कि वो तुम्हारे डेप्थ ऑफ इमोशंस को कैसे समझेगा. अगर मैं ये सारे सवालों के जवाब देने लग गई तो फिर तो हो चुका इमोशनल इंटेलिजेंस. इज दिस क्लियर फॉर एवरीवन? चलो नेक्स्ट, लेट्स स्टार्ट. नेक्स्ट हेडिंग डालो, रोल ऑफ ईआई इन गवर्नेंस. ओके, एक क्वेश्चन था मेरा. लेट अस सपोज द क्वेश्चन कम्स, राइट डाउन अ क्वेश्चन. Write down a question. Distinguish between, write down a question, distinguish between aptitude and attitude. Aptitude and attitude. Next, IQ and EQ. IQ and EQ. Intelligent quotient and emotional quotient. I'm giving you 5 minutes. Tell me, will you be able to write the answer? It's a 10-marker question. 5 marks for each. So you have to distinguish between जल्दी। Aptitude, it refers to the competence to perform a certain kind of job. If you remember the first lecture, it refers to a specialized ability. Whereas if I talk about attitude, it is lasting evaluation or perception about different aspects of social environment. मैंने कहा था ना डेफिनेशन टिप्स पे होनी चाहिए, तो you have to remember all the definition. Now comes down the most important challenge, and that is the example. Example to differentiate between the two. For example, we can take example of Operation Suleimani. Operation Suleimani. This operation is launched by the district collector in Kozhikode to address the problem of food with respect to poor. So Operation Suleimani was launched by district collector in Kozhikode. It is with respect to solving the food crisis problem of poor by collaborating with large restaurant or food joints. So here with attitude, what we mean is the attitude of the district collector towards the poor is that of compassion, because not only he is empathizing with them but also providing solution to their problems. So the attitude of the district collector is of compassion with respect to poor, because you are providing solutions to their problem. So you are not only empathizing but you are also providing solution. However, the aptitude here is the ability of district collector to resort to innovative solution to food crisis problem by collaborating with the restaurant. So here the aptitude is the ability to relate with the poor and find an innovative way of solving the problem by collaborating with large restaurant. So that is your aptitude. But your attitude is that of compassion. So one aptitude to hona hi chahiye. Agar aptitude nahi hai to you are not fit for it. I told you na, aptitude is a necessary condition to be a civil servant. Let us say you had the aptitude, but you did not have the attitude of compassion. So what's the point of having the ability if you do not have the motivation to work for them? Anyway, having said that, this is how the answer has to be written. Is this very clear? Similarly, you are going to talk about IQ and EQ. Intelligent quotient determines, लिखो एक लाइन में जल्दी से, write down. Did you understand the examples? इसीलिए, और ये गूगल करना है. ये मैं आके नहीं पढ़ाऊंगी, इसीलिए मैं एक एक्स्ट्रा क्लास ले रही हूं जस्ट टू गिव यू अ फुल आइडिया दैट हाउ वन हैज टू प्रिपेयर. ठीक है, नहीं तो कल को ये नहीं कहना अरे मैम ने तो बताया नहीं कैसे करना था. तो बता रही हूं और ये भी बता रही हूं कि ये सब आप खुद करना है. आप ये एग्जाम्पल्स उठाओ, गूगल करते हो ना, गूगल करो गुड एग्जाम्पल्स वेयर district collectors have worked. So take some, let us say example 6-7 examples where district collector had worked innovative measures to bring about effective governance. Take example of your leadership and please prepare that notes. वो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. ये कंसोलिडेटेड मटेरियल इज रियली गोइंग टू कम हैंडी. ठीक है. सोल्यूशन टू फूड क्राइसिस प्रॉब्लम, वेंकट अपनी लैंग्वेज में लिखना है. यू हैव टू राइट इट इन योर ओन लैंग्वेज. आई एम नॉट डिक्टेटिंग. तो अपनी लैंग्वेज में लिखो. सोल्यूशन टू द इनोवेटिव मीन्स टू द प्रॉब्लम ऑफ फूड क्राइसिस या फूड शॉर्टेज. राइट डाउन इंटेलिजेंट कोशेंट. It determines the level of intelligence. It determines the level of intelligence of a person. It determines the level of intelligence of a person based on the knowledge of the world, based on the knowledge of the world, working memory, reasoning, etc. etc. So intelligent quotient determines the level of the intelligence of the person. Ha Soumya, this will become the conclusion if you want to write. Both go hand in hand. Next, emotional quotient is a measure of person's level of emotional intelligence. It's a measure of person's level of emotional intelligence. Which refers to ability to identify, understand, and manage, ability to identify, understand, manage emotions of self and others, emotions of self and others, emotions of self and others. For example, it will be the intelligent quotient of a public official to understand the specialized areas of policy making. For example, financial planning. For example, the monetary policy, fiscal policy. So obviously you need to have that intelligent quotient to understand the specialized arena of policy making, right? But then you have to possess emotional quotient in order to build consensus and convince all the stakeholders with respect to that policy. Is that clear? So again, to be a good, effective administrative official, you need to possess both IQ as well as EQ. So IQ will help you to understand the specialized domains, right? It will help you understand the nuances of these areas. For example, the policies, economic policies. However, it is your emotional quotient which will enable you to effectively build the consensus and convince the stakeholders with respect to that policy. So this is how intelligent quotient and emotional quotient operates. So for effective administration, both needs to go hand in hand. Is this clear? Is everyone clear on this? Can we proceed? The next topic is role of EI in governance. It is believed that all governance is people's governance. All service is public service. Relationships are the DNA of the governance. So emotional intelligence becomes an important area of inquiry vis-a-vis governance. Is that clear? Prakhar, do you think emotional quotient can be quantified? Measure है. It's a measure. Not exactly a basic quantification. Maybe the researchers have proved it. So to certain extent, the experiments can be conducted, and based on how emotionally you are reacting, there are certain parameters which has been established for it. Quotient is a measure, so it has to be measurable. ठीक है. एक लाइन में लिखो जरा सा, then we'll explain. All governance is people's governance. All service is public service. All governance is people's governance. All service is public service. Relationships are the DNA of governance. Relationships are the DNA of governance. If public functionaries fail to develop, trustworthy relationship with others, there can be no governance. Just for the reference, Frederick Winslow Taylor has given a theory that is known as scientific management theory. The scientific management approach is based on the idea that there should not be any kind of waste, whether the time or the motion delay. So they say कि let us take a task. The task has to be divided. There is a division of labor which is happening. So the task is divided into subsequent tasks. A very molecular approach is taken, and to perform every task, they develop, there is a rule of thumb, they develop one best way of doing that task. So every task, let us say this is the task that you have. It will be subsequently divided into subparts. For each part, keeping in mind there should not be any time and motion delay. ठीक है? They will arrive at one best way of doing the job. Once they arrive at, then every worker is supposed to act in the same way. There will not be any individual discretion. So an individual is treated as mere cog in the machine. Is that clear? They are made to work for a very long time or long working hours, and let us suppose you have to build a furniture. So the work has been divided. So one of the job of one of the worker is to work on that log of wood, in which you have to कहते नहीं process करते हैं उसको. तो let us suppose you are moving your hands like this. This is the motion, and it has to be moved at a certain speed, so that they have calculated that if you keep on moving your hand at this speed, working on that log of wood, then the result would be most optimum. So without taking note of that individual discretion, their consideration, their physical involvement, the working environment, the person is only asked to move this hand like this. Don't you think it will lead to alienation? Because whatever the final product is getting created, you are not linked with it. You are not able to associate with it. All you are doing is performing that one molecular atomic job, one part of the entire task. So you don't feel involved with the final product which gets created, right? So, and it is believed that the only sole way of motivating the individual is through monetary incentives. They fail to realize that there is something existing beyond monetary incentives, right? So this is what is the perspective of Frederick Winslow Taylor, where he doesn't recognize the human emotions or the humans who are working in the organization. For him, he is mere a cog in the machine. Is that clear? Cog in the wheel bol le bhai. Is that clear? Is this clear for everyone? ठीक है. So write down. Frederick Winslow Taylor's scientific management approach is based on the idea of, elimination of time and motion waste. It is based on the idea of elimination of time and motion waste, and is primarily concerned with maximizing the output and efficiency. Primarily concerned with maximizing the output and efficiency. Workers' emotional issues such as boredom, frustration, etc. were dismissed as negligible concerns. Man was treated as the cog in the wheel. Fine. Man is treated as the cog in the wheel. It was characterized by dehumanization. Impersonalization, molecular approach. Molecular matlab breaking every act into smaller component and perfecting them. Molecular approach programmed operations, etc., to increase the productivity, etc., to increase the productivity, etc., to increase the productivity. Is this clear? Now, on the other side, we have Max Weber's understanding of bureaucracy. Anyone would like to contribute? Max Weber's understanding of bureaucracy. He has talked about that bureaucracy is the most effective rational model for operations. Right? It has been assumed, according to Max Weber's understanding of bureaucracy or the theory of bureaucracy which he has put forward, he has clearly assumed that the effectiveness and efficiency would be harmed if human emotions are going to influence the rational actions of the administrators. So while giving his understanding or theory of bureaucracy, it is based on assumption that So he has assumed that the efficiency of the administration will be negatively impacted if the emotions if the human emotions will influence the rational decision making of the administrators. Is that clear? Impersonality is treated as the specific virtue of bureaucracy. Okay, let me see. Hierarchy. लीगल रैशनल वे. पता है तुम लोगों के आंसर से ऑप्शनल का अंदाजा लग जाता है. फाइन. नहीं, तुम लोगों ने जो लिखा है वो एब्सोल्युटली करेक्ट है, बट क्योंकि हम वेबर की ब्यूरोक्रेसी नहीं पढ़ रहे हैं, हम वेबर की ब्यूरोक्रेसी इन कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऑफ इमोशनल इंटेलिजेंस पढ़ रहे हैं, इसलिए हमने इम्पर्सनैलिटी पे फोकस करा. अदरवाइज व्हाट यू आर सेइंग इज एब्सोल्युटली करेक्ट. फॉर एग्जांपल, व्हाट यू आर ट्राइंग टू से इज द कैरेक्टरिस्टिक फीचर ऑफ ब्यूरोक्रेसी. सो इफ आई हैव टू मेंशन द पॉइंट्स दैट यू हैव रिटन, देयर इज अ हायरार्की, देयर इज अ प्रॉपर चेन ऑफ कमांड, there are written rules, there is impersonality. Can we say this? There is anonymity, neutrality. Neutrality is nothing but impersonality. You have a proper sphere of competence, centralized authority, top down, career approach, So these are the characteristic feature of bureaucracy, bureaucratic management. You have a hierarchy, you have proper chain of command, written rules, impersonality, anonymity, sphere of competence, as in your rights and duties are clearly defined. There is centralized authority, top-down approach. The entire career model is being used here. Is that clear? अगर सोशियोलॉजी के पर्सपेक्टिव से देखना है, so as Bhuvna has placed, there are three authorities. You have traditional authority, charismatic authority, and legal rational authority. So legal rational authority, the effective mode of operation is bureaucracy. Clear है? But ये मेरा concern नहीं है. We are studying from the perspective of emotional intelligence. Is that clear? So give the heading. Necessity of impersonal management. Necessity of impersonal management. Whatever you've written is absolutely right. Necessity of impersonal management. Write down. Generally एक statement लिख लो. Impersonal management is the management through impersonal management is the management through system of official authority and predefined rules. By the way, एक बात बताना, तुम लोग एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव एथिक्स वाली क्लास में ब्यूरोक्रेसी पढ़ चुके हो क्या? मतलब मैं इसलिए पूछ रही हूँ, ये इम्पर्सनल मैनेजमेंट में करवा दूं ना, मतलब हाँ, इट इज वेबर्स थ्योरी. अरे कुछ नहीं सौम्या, द कंफ्यूजन यहां पे आता है. जैसे वेबर की थ्योरी है, तो अगर मैं सोशियोलॉजी में पढ़ती हूं तो सोशियोलॉजी में देयर इज अ कॉन्सेप्ट कॉल्ड अथॉरिटी, राइट? तो आई हैव टू स्टडी अथॉरिटी. सो वेबर हैज टॉक्ड अबाउट पावर. So what is Weber's understanding of power, how legitimate power is authority, and then we study. However, if I study public administration, so I study it from that Weber's theory of bureaucracy. समझे? तो वो बस डिफरेंस है. ठीक है? नहीं किया? चलो लिखो. Impersonal management is the management through the system of official authority and predefined rules. Management through system of official authority and predefined rules rather than तो यानी गवर्नेंस में पढ़ा है. व्हाट मेरा पूछने का सिर्फ बच्चे ये मतलब था कि डू आई नीड टू रिपीट, बट सिंस मोस्ट ऑफ यू आर सेइंग टू रिपीट, तो आई रिपीट. बट देन साई इज टेलिंग मी दैट टू रेफर इट फ्रॉम गवर्नेंस क्लास. तो मतलब गवर्नेंस में पढ़ा है. पूछने का मेरा तात्पर्य ये है कि पढ़ा है ये बताओ, फिर उस हिसाब से लिखवाऊंगी. चलो ये डेफिनेशन तो लिखो ही. रादर देन पर्सनल इन्वॉल्वमेंट, इमोशंस एंड सेंटिमेंट्स. Rather than personal involvement, emotions and sentiments. Full stop. It forms the core of Weberian bureaucracy. It forms the core of Weberian bureaucracy which seeks to maximize efficiency. It forms the core of Weberian bureaucracy which seeks to maximize efficiency. Ultimately, bureaucracy का objective ही ये है that you have to maximize efficiency, and they believe that if human emotions or personal value system is getting involved in this act, so no longer rational decision making can happen. I told you, people believe if you are using your emotions, then the planning cannot be concrete, you cannot arrive at sound judgment, logical reasoning cannot be done, objective critical thinking, rational decision making cannot happen. Same perspective tha Weber ka when he was talking about bureaucracy. So he said impersonal management is the requirement. He said impersonality is the most critical virtue of bureaucracy. ठीक है? Then write down, impersonal management ensures impersonal management ensures impersonal management ensure equality in treatment of people, equality in treatment of people, comma, fairness and objectivity, fairness and objectivity in bureaucratic functioning, fairness and objectivity in bureaucratic functioning, creates, कॉमा डाल के लिखते जाना, creates या पॉइंटर्स में लिख लो, creates institutional precedents, creates institutional precedents to shape future decision making, creates institutional precedents to shape future decision making, creates precedents to shape future decision making. Next, decisions are taken based on rational factors, decisions are taken based on rational factors rather than personal factors, rather than personal factors. However, change the para and write, however, Weberian's bureaucratic model has been criticized. Weber's bureaucratic model has been criticized. Why it has been criticized? Can you contribute why it has been criticized? पढ़ी है ना तुमने ब्यूरोक्रेसी, ऑप्शनल वाले बताओ, why it has been criticized? Too much rigidity, blind allegiance with the rules create grounds for blind rationality, where you fail to take into consideration the ground realities. Is that clear? So there is too much rigidity. Write down. It has been criticized on leading to too much rigidity, leading to too much rigidity as blind allegiance to rules or blind adherence to rules leads to blind rationality, leads to blind rationality. Second, Weberian's conception does not have enough room. Weberian's conception does not have enough room for human emotions. Human emotions, satisfaction, need and values. Human emotions, satisfaction, need and values. Full stop. It results into self-alienation. Remember prostitution of personality? Too much adherence to the written rules. You cannot act as per your own discretion. There is no flexibility. You would not be recognized for your contribution because you have to operate in anonymity. Okay? So the problem is self-alienation. Self-alienation or prostitution of personality. Anything you can write. It leads to self-alienation or prostitution of personality as there is no room for human discretion. As there is no room for human discretion. Iron cage word सुना है? So that is used. One of the criticism which bureaucracy has got is iron cage. ठीक है? Yes, prostitution of personality is a concept by C. Wright Mills. Iron cage has been the criticism for bureaucracy. It creates an iron cage. Is that very clear? Next, the problem becomes even more challenging. The problem becomes even more challenging while dealing with the weaker section. While dealing with the weaker section, because they are not able to raise their voice, the problem becomes more challenging while dealing with the weaker section, because they are not able to raise their voice for number of reasons. First, apathy of government officers, lack of strong pressure group, apathy of government officers, lack of strong pressure group, lack of awareness about their rights and entitlements, lack of awareness about their rights and entitlements. Is that clear? More importantly, the people who are working, the administrative officials, because there is too much strict adherence to the rules, they themselves are having no motivation to take any initiative. So further it curbs both the personal growth also as well as the organizational growth. तो एक point और लिखो. The excessive reliance on rules, the excessive reliance on rules overlooks the need for dynamism. The need for dynamism, over reliance on the rules overlooks the need for dynamism and also curb initiative, also curbs the initiative and inhibits the growth of employees. Also curb the initiative and inhibits the growth of employees. Growth of employees. Growth of employees. Clear है? एक लास्ट पॉइंट लिखो. ये let me put it in a proper words. What I was trying, let me first explain what I'm trying to say is that, remember necessity for impersonal management, and I told you it sets the institutional precedent for future decision making. Now when you are socialized to act according to written rules, but then there might be some special circumstances which gets created, right? Emergency gets created. At that point of time, you fail to deliver, because all throughout your service you have been taught, you have been socialized to act according to written rules and regulation. So if there is some situation of emergency, if there is some situation which requires innovation, then you are failed to deliver. So at that point of time, bureaucracy no longer remains the most effective form of functioning, or the most effective form of carrying out administration, because it is not having that inbuilt mechanism to confront the situations of emergency. Let us put it this way. Is that very clear? ठीक है? Did you understand what I'm trying to say? Is this clear? इसको कैसे लिखें अब? Write it. How should I put it? Since bureaucracy. with respect to confronting the emergency situations, with respect to confronting the emergency situation, bureaucracy fails to deliver. Bureaucracy fails to deliver as the officials are socialized, as the officials are socialized to function only according to the written rules, function only according to the written rules therefore lacks the ability and intention for innovation. Therefore lacks the ability and intention for innovation. Lacks the ability and intention for innovation. Clear? (1950s) there was an eminent or a prominent contribution which was made. There was a new school of thought which emerged that is known as human relations school of thought. And father of human relations theory known as Elton Mayo. So write down. एक हॉथॉर्न स्टडी कंडक्ट करी थी एल्टन मेयो ने, एंड वेयर ही फाउंड दैट इन एन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन बियॉन्ड मॉनेटरी इंसेंटिव देयर इज समथिंग विच वर्क्स, which significantly impacts the productivity and the efficiency of the organization, and that is the informal relations which the workers develop at the workplace. So it is not the physical environment, it is not the money, monetary incentives which are involved, which are motivating. The most important motivational factor for a worker in an organization, formal organization, is the informal relations which they develop. So basically, for the very first time, the importance of human emotions was emphasized upon. For the very first time, it was believed that man is not a machine. Man is not operating in a robotic manner. He has its own existence, right? The emotions needs to be valued. They need to be taken into consideration while making any decisions. Is that very clear? Okay, so write down. For the first time, it was recognized, for the first time it was recognized that formal organizational properties do not satisfy the needs of the individual. Do not satisfy the needs of the individual. And it is the informal groups, which an individual forms within the organization impacts the organizational productivity. You don't need to get into the detailing of Hawthorne experiment until and unless PubAd is your optional. Otherwise, it is not required. Nahi Bhuvna, that is the criticism of Hawthorne effect. While in surveillance, the productivity is more. That is the criticism which was given. तो वो नहीं लिखोगे यहाँ पे. हॉथोर्न इफेक्ट को एक क्योंकि तुमने सोशियोलॉजी, आई थिंक योर ऑप्शनल इज, सो हॉथोर्न इफेक्ट इज डिफाइंड एज अ क्रिटिसिज्म. ठीक है कि बट ठीक है फाइन, बट यहाँ पे ये चीज अप्लाई नहीं हो रही है कि व्हेन यू आर अंडर सर्विलेंस ऑब्वियसली यू बिकम कॉन्शियस एंड अकॉर्डिंगली यू एक्ट. ठीक है ना. So that is all about natural environment and the social setting which is there. ठीक है, but that is another thing. Hawthorne experiment was conducted by Elton Mayo, where various programs, interview programs were used, and it was realized that the organizational productivity does not depends upon the working condition or environment or the salary wages that they are drawing. It depends upon to what extent they identify with the informal groups within the organization or what kind of informal relationships that they have developed. So Hawthorne effect was, or Hawthorne experiment was the experiment conducted by Elton Mayo, right? But later a term was coined, that is Hawthorne effect, to criticize, or it is used as a criticism kind of a thing when it is said that when you are being observed, then you become cautious and you don't act in your natural manner. Suppose you know that, for example, suppose we know that today the feedback form would be collected. So that would be a Hawthorne effect, no? So obviously the delivery of the teacher would be altered, right? Because हमें कहीं ना कहीं पता है, we'll become cautious कि नहीं आज feedback form collect होने वाला है. So you know we have to put up our best show. So that is Hawthorne effect. ठीक है? So there is a difference between Hawthorne effect and Hawthorne experiment. Is that clear? Is it making sense? आगे बढ़े. ठीक, लिखो. According to Elton Mayo's perspective, according to the Elton Mayo's perspective, it is the interpersonal relations, attitude of the supervisor, psychological factors have more influence on the productivity of the worker, Next. According to this theory, man is more than a machine. Hence, personalization of work is the need of the hour. तभी कहते हैं ना collaborative approach is required, personalization, your involvement has to be there. What is the concept of Gram Sabha? What is the concept of social auditing? Right? You have to be involved. Only then internalization of policies would be there. Only then people would connect to the policies which have been implemented for them. They will proactively participate in finding that what are the loopholes, how it needs to be plugged in. Right? So there has to be a need of collaborative approach. A citizen cannot act as a passive recipient of the benefits of the welfare policy. No, it would not function. They have to be an active participant. There has to be a need of personalization of work. Is that clear? Hence, personalization of work is required. Collaborative approach is required. For example, concept of Gram Sabha, social auditing, etc. Now we will connect from what I am teaching. Elton Mayo's work was followed by Mayer and Salovey and Goldman. and Goldman. And their efforts resulted in the development of understanding. Their efforts resulted in development of understanding that the governance encompasses set of relationship between government and citizens, encompasses set of relationship between government and citizens, and hence calls for display of emotional intelligence. Display of emotional intelligence. Full stop. Full stop. Next point. I will give you sufficient content, लेकिन एप्लीकेशन आपको करना होगा, ठीक है, वो भी हम देखेंगे. We'll just see. Next, write down. The contemporary approach to administration emphasizes on employee empowerment, networking, collaboration and citizen focus. Full stop. Administrative success and failure today is not based on technical proficiency alone. Administrative success and failure today is not based on technical proficiency alone, but more upon how effectively I'll repeat, the success and failure in administration today is not based on technical proficiency alone, but more upon how effectively public officials can display their EI skills, to manage interaction with people around them. Did you understand role of EI in governance? Next heading. Benefits of EI in administration. Benefits of EI in administration. Benefits of EI in administration. Give the heading. benefits of EI in administration. What are the benefits of EI in administration? 5 minutes. Give me the points. Give me the points. सोच के देना, जल्दी नहीं है. Manas, better reliability and resilience of the organization. In the face of adversities. Absolutely correct. Empathetic handling of crisis and vulnerable groups. Overall, it inculcates the values of empathy and compassion. I'm writing it here. Emotionally intelligent leaders, they act as a change catalyst. They are more disposed, positively disposed towards bringing about social change. It enhances the level of commitment, trustworthiness, confidence in the functioning of the organization. They have the ability to prioritize task. In backdrop of in today's time, the need of the hour is multitasking. So in the backdrop of the importance of multitasking, they have the art of prioritizing the job depending upon the situation. More transparency and accountability. Indu, makes sense. Okay, we have a detailed answer. Yogendra, utmost and desired outcome can be withdrawn, makes sense. Efficiency of administration, citizen centric, empathy and compassion ho gaya. Interest, collaboration might be ensured. Distrust can be eliminated. Very good, very good. Then we have Vikrant, can get success even in challenging situation, makes sense. Understanding the different demands, more empathetic understanding of the situation, better ecosystem, makes sense. Very good. Accountability, non-partial solution, active observation, Ankush, very good. Gaurav, sensitivity, empathetic, reduce stress, higher self-realization of duties, Gaurav, very good. Inclusion of relevant, better identification, Sajid, very good. Better identification of beneficiaries, efficiency, quicker decision making. वेरी गुड. साजिद, बस वो हिंदी में समझाने का जरूरत नहीं था, समझ गए थे, ठीक है. गुड. अनंत, मोटिवेशनल होगा, बिल्कुल मोटिवेशनल होगा. वेरी गुड. It will further improve their work because it would be motivating. Remember Daniel Goleman, if you are an emotionally intelligent person, you will have a realistic goal setting. There will be quick realization of goals which will be motivational, right? So effective decision making, better results on ground, ठीक है? Better targeted approach, good identification of beneficiaries. You can write all of that. So we have enough points.
I'm not sure I understand.
Then we have Kumar, help in building consensus, policy implementation, policy formulation. हाँ ठीक है, इस तरह से भी लिख सकते हो. Very good. Then we have Jolly, better outcome, trust, compliance, scope of improvement, due to feedback. Makes sense. ठीक है, या तो इसको इस तरह की अप्रोच के साथ लिख लो. For example, what you guys are writing, absolutely correct. इस तरह से भी करके लिख सकते हो. Again, if you can notice, it is in a chronology. Identification of beneficiary, more targeted approach, collaborative policy making, better implementation, evaluation through feedback, plugging the loopholes effectively, overall good governance. एक तरीका ये भी हो सकता है. Is that clear? ठीक है. So overall, your crisis management can be there, effective communication can be there, clear definition of the area of competence can be there, social capital can be there, social change can be brought about, prioritization can be done, and in case of any adversity, the rational decision making can be ensured because you have control over your emotions. So you would not deviate, or you would not succumb to the pressure. You will confront the situation of adversity. You will try to function in any which circumstances. So whichever way you want to write, you can do that. Is this very clear for everyone? Is it making sense? So the next question arises is, can emotional intelligence be learned? Can emotional intelligence be learned? We know emotional intelligence is important, whether it is personal relations or professional relations, whether it is administration in public organization or private organization, every which way to function effectively, to ensure more stability, harmony, peace, to develop or strengthen social capital, right, to ensure efficiency, effectiveness, to increase, optimize the productivity, every which way, emotional intelligence is the key. This is the last page. Indu, this is the last page. So emotional intelligence needs to be learned. Generally, it says that your genetics or the early socialization, it plays a very important role, that to what extent you will be an emotionally intelligent person. So yes, your genetics and early socialization or early experiences of life play a very significant role in determining However, these skills can be learned and evolved over a period of time through, obviously, specific interventions. Absolutely correct, Anand. So how it can be learned? First of all, you should be motivated. You should have the commitment to improve your emotional intelligence. ऐसे randomly vacuum में develop नहीं होता है. You have to make a deliberate, conscious effort to enhance your emotional intelligence. And trust me, it has to be done. For example, I'll tell you something. I never used to interact in a very jovial manner, right? That is my personality trait. I was not exactly an introvert, but then I'm not very social, right? I don't socialize with everyone. But my job, which I have chosen as my career, is teaching, in which I have to learn the art of socializing, at least with the students. I have to appear more approachable. I have to be more approachable. I have to be more available. I have to give the vibe so that the students are comfortable to interact, if I want to be honest with my job. So I had to make a conscious effort. What I used to be 5 years back, I am very different as of now. So I have made a deliberate conscious effort to make that change in the personality, right? So you should have the motivation, you should have the commitment to inculcate that emotional intelligence, right? So the good thing about teaching ethics which has happened is that you realize, the moment I am teaching, I realize that where all I am still having the shortcomings, how, to what extent I am not self-aware, then self-regulation sometimes becomes a challenge, then my social skills are not at par. So I need to work on all of that. So it has to be a conscious reminder to your own self. First, so you need to have the motivation to inculcate the skills of emotional intelligence. It doesn't happen in vacuum. Is that very clear? Write down. Write down. Learning EI skills require बिल्कुल Kumar, absolutely. If each one of us are emotionally intelligent, we will be empathetic to others. We will understand what are the problems suffered by the people belonging to lower caste and how caste system has been discriminatory. And not only that, we will develop the values of compassion, attitude of compassion. So not only we will place ourselves in their shoes and understand their problem, we will try to provide the solutions to their problem, right? And one of the solutions is to promote intercaste communication, association, marriages, to do away with the caste certificates, to bring about the attitudinal change. And if each one of us is deliberately making that conscious effort, we will not be judging other person based on their color, based on their gender, based on their sex, based on their race, based on their caste, class. So when a conscious effort is being made, then you start accepting the other person without any judgment. So obviously it will help in creating more harmonious society. It will help in doing away with this feeling of deprivation. Is that very clear? So this emotional intelligence would be very handy, but the only problem is majority of us, they lack emotional intelligence. So write down, learning emotional intelligence skills requires commitment, conscious practice and training to improve EI. Conscious practice and training to improve EI. Second point, उसी में लिखो, motivation में. There has to be an honest willingness. There has to be an honest willingness to evaluate your own emotions, First, you should have the motivation. You should have the commitment. You should make the conscious effort. You should be honest enough to recognize your own emotions, to evaluate your own emotions. Once you have the motivation to do that, after that, we need to ensure that there are well-designed interventions. There has to be proper training which has to be provided to you. For example, write down, it helps a person to get accurate feedback. It helps a person to get accurate feedback about how others perceive you. It helps a person to get accurate feedback about how others perceive you. about how others perceive you. It helps an individual to get the accurate feedback about how others perceive you. Individual gets a clear picture of what needs to be improved. Individual gets a clear picture of what needs to be improved. Gets a clear picture about what needs to be improved. Hence can practice specific behavior. Hence can practice specific behavior. Hence can practice specific behavior that will help in enhancing targeted competence. That will help in enhancing targeted competence. Targeted competence. Flexibility in attitude. Flexibility in attitude. Flexibility in attitude. Write down flexibility in attitude, write down. People with better social skills. People with better social skills, empathy, and greater self-awareness. People with better social skills, empathy, greater self-awareness are better equipped to be improved. Are better equipped to be improved. Full stop. Even if one is sensitive to criticism, even if one is sensitive to criticism, they should have the willingness to change. Even if one is sensitive to the criticism, they should have the willingness to the change. They should have the willingness to change. See, if you are a person who has good social skills, if you are a person who has greater self-awareness, so the probability of improving your emotional intelligence would any day be high. Now, even if you don't possess these qualities, you should have the flexibility in your attitude. What is the purpose of giving a feedback? There are many a time we come across students who are very defensive. So if we try to provide them the feedback, they are just not open to the feedback. They believe whatever they are saying is right. I'll give you an example. There was a very good student. He had amazing knowledge. I'm talking about sociology. He had amazing knowledge. I have a lot of respect for him because he's very hardworking and he had good amount of knowledge. But his only problem was he was very stubborn, and he gave 6 attempts, and 6th attempt every time he used to reach interview stage, but in 6th attempt he did not even manage to qualify mains, and now he's working good for himself. He's working in private sector, everything. But I felt sorry for him. I felt sorry because he was a good student. He was very hardworking. He has honestly devoted his 6 years of his life, very honestly pursuing this career, this exam. And he could have cleared it, but he was very stubborn. He was not flexible at all. Every passing year, I kept on reminding him that what is his problems. I kept on reading his essays and answers. I kept on telling him that your knowledge is getting displayed in a very wrong manner. But he was so stubborn. Because when you accumulate knowledge, a sense of pride comes. But that pride, when turns into arrogance, you don't understand that. Obviously, he was very respectful towards us, but he was not understanding that his knowledge has turned into arrogance. He believed that whatever is his analysis is right. Sometimes you need a third party to make you realize that, look, this is going wrong. Because ultimately, you are not going to correct your answers. Right? It is we who are going, we as in, the examiner is going to correct it. So if I am not understanding what you have written in your answer, no matter how much you've studied, doesn't make sense. But he was just not ready to listen. And now he tells us, and whenever I speak to him, now he tells that, I realize I have committed a blunder. But all said and done, now he's doing well for himself. But that is not my point. The point here is you should have flexibility in your attitude. Is that very clear? You should always be ready to change yourself according to the circumstances. Is that clear? Next, application. Incorporating the theoretical talk while learning EI in real life. Incorporating the theoretical talk while learning EI in real life. I have told you what is Daniel Goleman's perspective. That is theoretical interpretation of EI. And while your interaction in your everyday administrative life or your family life, so while you are learning to apply emotional intelligence in real life, you should always keep in your subconscious mind the theoretical perspective. Next, self-help activities. Self-help activities with respect to EI courses, are productive only when it can be implemented in real life situations. Are productive only when it can be implemented in real life situations. Are effective only when it can be implemented in real life situations. Is that very clear? So this is how emotional intelligence can be learned. While learning EI in real life, while learning emotional intelligence in real life. Is this very clear? So can EI be learned? Yes, it can be learned. Clear hai? I'm generally asking, what will be the traits of emotionally intelligent administrator? I'm asking, what will be the traits of think about it. What will be the traits, characteristic of an emotionally intelligent administrator? Democratic, open to suggestion, calm, composed, motivated, fine. Or compassionate, fine. I'm generally telling you that if some question comes, you don't have to be affected that ये तो हमने पढ़ा नहीं, कैसे होगा, ऐसे ही हो जाता है. You can think of any point. सबका साथ सबका विकास, inspired a shared vision. Absolutely. You can write these, tolerant वगैरह, social skills में आ जाएंगे ये सारी चीजें. Apathy towards vulnerables, क्या लिखा है? Clear है? Is this clear? If the question comes, will you be able to write? Learn some examples. Emotionally intelligent person, APJ Abdul Kalam, emotionally intelligent person. You can take specific examples also. Walking the talk. You can give examples of the district collectors who have been walking the talk. For example, Pankaj Jain, district collector, MP. He is sending his daughter to study in Anganwadi. So walking the talk, lead by example. So you can pick up specific examples. Assertiveness, independence. Sam Manekshaw, 1971 war. Open to constructive feedback, Indira Gandhi, 1971 war. Challenge the status quo, the leaderships who have been trying to bring about social change in the society. You can take independent examples also. ये जो listening competency वगैरह है ना, ये सब इसमें आ जाएगा यार. Tolerance, humor, accommodative, high listening ability, everything would come here. क्या बात कर दी यार. वॉकिंग द टॉक तो मैं कितने समय से पढ़ा रही हूं. लीड बाय एग्जाम्पल. वॉट एवर यू प्रीच यू नीड टू प्रैक्टिस. 5. assertive. Assertive as in if you think that something is right, you have to have the ability to be assertive, to be independent. You should not be affected by what others are saying. You should have the courage. सबसे important, courage. A man of courage makes the majority. You should have the courage to take the decision. Courage is the most important attribute of a civil servant. Is this clear for everyone? We'll take 5 minutes break. I'll meet you at 3:30. You can. Let's start. So EI in Indian context. Yesterday only we have talked about the concept of emotional intelligence as put forward in Bhagavad Gita. So if I talk about EI in Indian context, we have to make reference, because if it is specified in any context, it is the Bhagavad Gita, where it has been clearly specified. An emotionally intelligent person is being defined as Sthit Prajna. Is that clear for everyone? Now, when Lord Krishna had talked about emotional intelligence, he had also identified the 4 ability thing. He also talked about emotional perception. He has talked about emotional assimilation, understanding, and management. So when it was asked that what is the basic reason why the kind of emotional turmoil an individual goes through, what restricts an individual from becoming an emotionally intelligent person, so he had identified, Lord Krishna identified that it is the desire and the anger. These are the two major vices of any individual's life which is responsible for their destruction, or which is responsible for their downfall. So according to Lord Krishna, the root cause of all the emotional turmoil which an individual goes through is the desire and the anger. Desire as in the attachment, the longingness for something. Okay? So when you have the attachment for something, you have a desire to achieve something. It can be anything. It can be your goal, it can be a person, it can be a materialistic thing. So when you have a desire, you have an attachment with that object, idea, event, or a person. You have a longingness to achieve that. And that longingness, when not fulfilled on time, results into the feeling of anger. Prolonged, it results into anger. When there is anger, person becomes delusional. When person becomes delusional, the ability to distinguish between right and wrong gets crippled. This is which has been mentioned in your Bhagavad Gita. Is this clear? Now, there are very famous lines which are written in this context. Let me just tell you those lines. You will be able to relate better. And sorry for the Hindi. मैत्री की राह बताने को, सबको सुमार्ग पर लाने को, दुर्योधन को समझाने को, भीषण विध्वंस बचाने को, भगवान हस्तिनापुर लाए, पांडव का संदेशा लाए, दो न्याय अगर तो आधा दो, यदि इसमें कोई बाधा हो तो दे दो केवल 5 ग्राम, रखो बाकी धरती तमाम, हम वही खुशी से खाएंगे, परिजन पर असीना उठाएंगे। दुर्योधन वो भी दे न सका, आशीष समाज की ले न सका, उल्टा हरि को बांधने चला, जो असाध्य था उसे साधने चला, जब नाश मनुष्य पर छाता है, पहले विवेक मर जाता है। Is that very clear? So when there is a situation of distress, you become delusional, your ability to distinguish between what is right and wrong gets crippled. This is what Ramdhari Singh Dinkar has written in Rashmi Rati. Is that clear? दुर्योधन वो भी दे न सका, आशीष समाज की ले न सका, उल्टा हरि को बांधने चला, जो था असाध्य उसे साधने चला। जब नाश मनुज पर छाता है, पहले विवेक मर जाता है। हरि ने हुंकार भरा, अपना स्वरूप विस्तार किया। डगमग डगमग दिग्गज डोले, कुपित होकर ईश्वर बोले, जंजीर बढ़ाकर साध मुझे, हां हां दुर्योधन बांध मुझे। डिड यू गेट माई पॉइंट? सो इट वॉज दुर्योधन्स डिजायर to capture entire property. It was not the war which was indispensable. War could have been avoided. Kurukshetra could have been avoided. In fact, Lord Krishna went to speak to Duryodhan. He was a messenger. He carried the message of Pandav that all we need, दो न्याय अगर तो आधा दो, वैसे तो प्रॉपर्टी डिवीजन आधा आधा होना चाहिए था, पर अगर नहीं दे सकते तो केवल दे दो 5 ग्राम, ओनली 5 विलेजेस एंड कीप रेस्ट ऑफ द प्रॉपर्टी टू योर सेल्फ। हम वही खुशी से खाएंगे, परिजन पर असीना उठाएंगे, हम तुम्हें क्वेश्चन भी नहीं करेंगे। किंतु दुर्योधन वो भी दे न सका, आशीष समाज की ले न सका। उल्टा हरि को बांधने चला, जो था असाध्य उसे साधने चला। जब नाश मनुष्य पर चाहता है, पहले विवेक मर जाता है। So his desire to capture the entire territory, his prolonged longingness for that materialistic desire, when was not getting satisfied, it resulted in his anger, and because of anger he became delusional. He could not foresee that this war is not going to bring any good to anyone, and as a result his ability to distinguish between right and wrong got crippled. So जब नाश मनुष्य पर छाता है, पहले विवेक मर जाता है। Rashmi Rati by Ramdhari Singh Dinkar. You can quote in the examination if you remember. Is that clear? Did you understand what I'm trying to say? So if you can remember, do write these lines. It's very effective, and trust me, you will fetch marks. So if you want to write shloks, if you want to write dohas, ठीक है, if you want to write, but just write it in English. English as in not the English translation. Do not write in Devanagari script. That is what I mean. So rest everything would do. Is that clear? Is it making sense? So basically, I wanted to define these lines just to make you understand that what is written. So the major problem of every situation is desire and anger. Manish, there was a question in UPSC on anger. I think 2-3 years back. एक बार check करके मेरे को लिख के दो ना. What was the exact question? Is that clear? If you want to give example of Duryodhan, you can give example of Duryodhan. If you want to give example, you can give example of Ravan. You can give example of Hitler. Is that clear? So whichever way you want to give these examples, you can write. Is this clear? Okay. So write down the characteristic of an emotionally intelligent person according to Bhagavad Gita. ये बना लिया है ना? I hope you have written this. Non-Hindi students, Venkat, you can give examples, Ramayan, Mahabharat, or if in your folk tales or scriptures you have any example, or you can pick up examples from world history. ठीक है? So you can, okay, let me give the example. हमने post independence India पढ़ा है, याह्या खान का example दे दो. His desire to capture power, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto का example दे दो. His desire to capture power led to Bangladesh Liberation War, and at the end of it, what happened? They lost the entire territory of East Pakistan. If they would have not gone back on their promise, and if they would have appreciated that Awami League has won the elections and they have the right to rule, ऐसा तो है नहीं कि जिंदगी भर करते भाई 5 साल बाद दोबारा इलेक्शन करा लेते, but that desire had crippled your capacity to distinguish between what is right and wrong, and which resulted into Bangladesh liberation and you also losing the power. लिखो. Is that clear? Is that clear? So you can pick up examples from world history, you can pick up examples from post-independence, or you can pick up examples as the students have suggested for your respective literature. उसका मुझको इतना knowledge नहीं है, तो आप वहां से ले सकते हो, ठीक है? Is that clear? So write down the characteristic feature of emotionally intelligent person. Write down. He is the one who remains unperturbed. He is the one who remains unperturbed in the face of calamity. He is the one who remains unperturbed He is the one who remains unperturbed in the face of calamity, takes good or evil with equanimity, takes good or evil with takes good or evil with equanimity. Third, he is neither happy when something good happens, he is neither happy when something good happens, nor is he affected when things goes against him, nor is he affected when things goes against him. Next. It does not mean that he lacks sensitivity. It does not mean that he lacks sensitivity. It does not mean he lacks sensitivity. In fact, he has the ability to keep his emotions in check. I'll repeat. An emotionally intelligent person, according to Lord Krishna, is, first point, one who remains unperturbed in the face of calamity. Second, he takes good or evil with equanimity. Third, he is neither happy when something good happens, nor is he affected. He is neither happy when something good happens, nor is he affected when things goes against him. When things goes against him. Fourth point. It does not mean that he lacks sensitivity. It does not mean that he lacks sensitivity. In fact, he has the ability to keep his emotions in check. He has the ability to keep his emotions in check and has the skill of withdrawing his feelings, has the skill of withdrawing his feelings away from the object of pleasure or pain. Last, that is, he has the power to emotionally attach or detach from any situation at his own will. Has the power to emotionally attach or detach from any situation at his own will. Is that clear? He is the one who has achieved liberation, freedom from affection, fear, wrath. He has become a muni of steady wisdom. That is what it has been said. He has been liberated from the feeling of affection, fear, wrath. He has become the muni of steady wisdom. This is how Lord Krishna has defined what are the characteristic features of emotionally intelligent person. Is that clear? Now it was being asked that how one can become an emotionally intelligent person. So to which it was replied that if you perform nishkam karm, then you can become emotionally intelligent person. Is that clear? Just give me 1 minute. I'm looking for a content. 1 minute rukna. Just read this question. This first one. Anger is a harmful negative emotion. It is injurious to both personal and work life. Discuss how it leads to negative emotion and undesirable behavior and how it can be managed and controlled. Give me the answer for this question. अरे क्वेश्चन यही लिखा है सौम्या. क्वेश्चन इज रिटन. ये दिखता है ना आप लोग को रिस्पॉन्स पोर्टल पे. देखो ब्लू से हाईलाइटेड है, मनीष ने दिया है. एंगर इज अ हार्मफुल नेगेटिव इमोशन. इट इज इंजूरियस to both personal and work life. That's a statement given to you. You don't have to do anything about it. There are 2 parts to this question. It's a 10-marker question. 5 marks for each part. Discuss how it leads to negative emotion and undesirable behavior. And second, how it can be managed and controlled. बताओ क्या होगा? See, Taruna, the concept was talked about that nishkam karma should be done without any attachment with the consequences of the action. So whether you will be successful or failure, it should not bother you. Because when you become conscious about the consequence of any action, it results into anxiety. You start deliberating that how I can be successful. You should perform an action with utmost honesty, integrity, and you should perform a certain action because you believe that action needs to be performed. You should prepare for UPSC examination because you want to prepare for it. And since you are investing your time, you are investing your youth, you are investing the aspiration, the hopes of your parents. So you should perform the task of preparing for UPSC with utmost integrity. because you are doing a task, and you are doing a task because you want to do it. You want to prepare for this examination because you want to serve the society or whatever reasons you have. But you should not bear in your mind the consequence. I should be successful, or what if I failed, or what if I couldn't clear this exam in next 6 attempts. Everybody tells that first attempt में तो बहुत ही मुश्किल होता है clear करना. It is going to lead to anxious behavior. It will result into anxiety. You will become bothered. Your wholehearted effort would not be there, right? So the point, and even if you become highly motivated, what if the result doesn't come in your favor? Then disappointment would be very high, right? So you should perform the action because it needs to be performed. And once you are performing that action, it needs to be performed with utmost honesty and integrity. Diligence have to be there. Hard work has to be there. You should not be cutting a sorry figure. So that is how it needs to be understood. I hope you got the point. ठीक है? हाँ, कुछ भी कर सकते हो. See, in such questions, you have full freedom to write whichever way. Tushar, ठीक है. Define the anger, then jolly. Define anger. We'll prove it's a negative emotion because it makes you feel miserable and all. We have written that. Then how it can affect your personal and working life because of these emotions, and how disruptive behavior would be there, because anger, it makes you delusional. It affects your capacity to distinguish between right and wrong. So obviously it might lead to very irrational behavior. You can give one odd examples. Then how it can be controlled and managed: yoga, meditation, distraction, ठीक है, pleasant form of distraction, then interacting with the people, then knowing what is the root cause of your anger, more self-awareness, ठीक है, healing therapies. Nikhil, Jolly, Kamal, everyone, you all have written decent answer. Bhuvna, everyone. You understood the point. See, now are you getting the point how it needs to be prepared? ठीक है? That's what I'm saying. It's interesting, but don't be baffled in the examination if you come across a question which you might not have prepared before. क्योंकि हो सकता है वो टर्म तैयार ना किया हो. अब एंगर की जगह वो हो सकता है जेलसी दे दे, ठीक है ना, कुछ भी दे सकते, लव दे दे, जॉय दे दे, इंटरेस्ट दे दे, ऑ दे दे, या होप दे दे, कुछ भी दे सकते हैं, राइट? तो वहां पे आपका प्रेजेंस ऑफ माइंड यूज होगा, बिकॉज यू कैन नॉट प्रिपेयर फॉर एवरी इमोशन, बिकॉज देयर इज नो एग्जॉस्टिव लिस्ट ऑफ इमोशंस, ठीक है ना? सो यू कैन प्रिपेयर इन एनी विच कैपेसिटी, बट येस, आई वुड से आइडेंटिफाई 7-8 इमोशंस एंड प्रिपेयर सम राइट अप. Is that clear for everyone? ठीक है. So write down निष्काम कर्म. Give the heading निष्काम कर्म. Lord Krishna suggested that emotional intelligence can be ensured. He suggested that emotional intelligence can be ensured if the path of nishkam karm is followed. If the path of nishkam karm is followed. If the path of nishkam karm is followed, then emotional intelligence can be achieved. Write down. Nishkam karm is the philosophy of disinterested performance of duties. It is the philosophy of disinterested performance of duties. Disinterested performance of duties without any expectation in return. Without any expectation in return. Second point, it teaches us that duties are to be performed. It teaches us that the duties are to be performed without any selfish motive, desire, or anxiety for the results of the action. It teaches us that the duties have to be performed without any selfish motive, desire, or anxiety for the results of the action. Nishkam karm as a quality is an asset in civil services, as it is an asset in civil services as first, certain set of duties have to be performed selflessly, and without any expectation. Second, the result of action should not agitate their minds even in tense situation. निखिल, नहीं, इट्स नॉट अ बैड थिंग बच्चे, बिकॉज वही मेरा पॉइंट है कि आप ड्यूटी को परफॉर्म कर रहे हो क्योंकि वो आपकी ड्यूटी है. यू आर नॉट होल्डिंग एनी सेल्फिश इंटरेस्ट इन परफॉर्मिंग दैट ड्यूटी. सिविल सर्विसेज में बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, इसीलिए तो लाया गया है. ठीक है, इमोशनल एस्पेक्ट होता है, तो इमोशंस को लाओ, क्योंकि वो ड्यूटी आप इसलिए परफॉर्म कर रहे हो बिकॉज यू हैव दैट empathetic understanding that it needs to be done, but you should not have any selfish interest in performing that duty, as in you should not have your own vested interest. You are performing that duty because it needs to be performed, and you will perform it with utmost integrity. Keep that in mind. Next, the result of action should not agitate their mind even in tense situation. Full stop. However, it is possible only when one is involved in their duty with detachment. This is what I mean when I say disinterested. ये लाइन लिखो निखिल, ये तुम्हारे लिए है. This is only possible when one is involved in one's own duty with detachment. And is only focused on personal accountability, honesty, and integrity. And is only focused on personal accountability, honesty, and integrity. आप इसे larger sense में समझो. The relationship between parents and the child. Parents invest in the education, upbringing of the child because they have the expectation that in their old age, the children would be their social support. And when children fails to deliver on this expectation, then parents are feeling disenchanted. They are feeling depressed, right? You should not have expected anything in return. You should be self-aware about your responsibility, that if you have brought an individual into this world, it is your duty to socialize them. It is your duty to invest in their upbringing. It is your duty to prepare them to meet the challenges of the future. But you should not have expected anything in return. इसी को तो निष्काम कर्म कहते हैं. मुझे ऐसा क्यों लग रहा है कि मैं प्रवचन दे रही हूं, but this is what I mean. If you are into a relationship with your partner, you should be self-aware that it is your responsibility to invest in that relationship emotionally, financially, physically, whichever way it is. However, you should not expect something in return. But you should also be self-aware about your self-respect. So if you think if your self-respect is getting impacted, do away. Just get yourself detached from that relationship, from that individual person and move ahead. प्रॉब्लम आती है रिलेशनशिप्स में, चाहे वो हस्बैंड वाइफ हो, गर्लफ्रेंड बॉयफ्रेंड हो, स्टूडेंट टीचर हो या पेरेंट चाइल्ड हो. यू स्टार्ट एक्सपेक्टिंग अ लॉट. यू हैव टू परफॉर्म योर ओन निष्काम कर्म. डोंट एक्सपेक्ट. इफ यू गेट द रिजल्ट्स, गुड फॉर यू. इफ यू डोंट, इट्स ओके. देयर इज समथिंग बेटर स्टोर्ड इन फॉर यू. पर अपना काम तो अटमोस्ट ऑनेस्टी, इंटीग्रिटी, अकाउंटेबिलिटी के साथ करो. ये कहने का तात्पर्य है. ठीक है. जब आप सर्विस करने जा रहे हो फ्रंट लाइन पर, क्या डॉक्टर सोचता है कि मुझे इसका रिकॉग्निशन मिलेगा कि नहीं? I have seen so many frontline workers working day in, day out. They are the student interns who would not be getting anything in return, but they have that passion to serve the nation. वो एटलीस्ट शुरुआत में तो डॉक्टर्स में होता है. Later stages में due to the reality and everything, जो भी रहा हो, I don't want to comment on that. But I have myself seen the students. They were putting in so much of labor. एक तो वो एक को तबीयत खराब हो गई थी तो बेचारा वो ग्लूकोज चढ़ा चढ़ा के लोगों को सर्व कर रहा था. एंड ही वाज अ इंटर्न. आई वाज सो मूव्ड कि इनको क्या मोटिवेशन है. दे आर परफॉर्मिंग देयर ड्यूटी. दे आर बिकमिंग अ डॉक्टर, सोल्जर, टीचर्स, you know, the pressure groups, politicians, leaders. They have too much responsibility to be borne on their shoulders. So nishkam karma needs to be performed. Next, selfish action may lead to unethical practices. Selfish action may lead to unethical Selfish action may lead to unethical practices such as corruption, nepotism, misconduct, inefficiencies, misuse of power, etc. I'll repeat. Selfish action may lead to unethical practices such as corruption, nepotism, misconduct, inefficiency, misuse of power, etc. It is also helpful in resolving the tension. It is also helpful in resolving the tension between altruism and self-interest. Altruism, that is good faith. Altruism matlab good faith. So it helps in resolving the tension between altruism and self-interest and paves the way for more ethical and holistic governance. Ethical and holistic governance. Last point. Many a times we will confront the situation which is not within our control. Many a times we will confront situations which is not in our control. Full stop. We can only put in efforts. We can only put in efforts without any guarantee of success. We can only put in efforts without any guarantee of success. In such situations, this philosophy helps us. In such situations, this philosophy helps us to remain motivated and focused. In such situations, this philosophy helps us to remain motivated and focused. To remain motivated and focused. Repeat the point after misuse of power. I said it helps us resolving the tension between altruism and self-interest. It helps in resolving the confusion between altruism and self-interest and paves the way for more ethical and holistic governance. It paves the way for more holistic and ethical governance. Last point, many a times situation is not in our control. So we can only put our efforts without any guarantee of success. So in such situations, this philosophy of Nishkam Karm keeps us motivated and focused. होता है ना, तैयारी कर रहे हो, अब कोई गारंटी दे सकता है आईएएस बनोगे कि नहीं बनोगे? कोई नहीं दे सकता, right? So what keeps you focused and motivated? यार, my job is to perform Nishkam Karm. I will do that. I will not be affected by whether the results are in my favor or not. I will not think about the result only. I will only perform my job. Because that is in our control. ये तो हम ऐसे भी बताते हैं ना यार कि there are certain controllable factors, certain uncontrollable factors. So effort is controllable. What is uncontrolled is result. So why bother about that? Live your life. Is that very clear? Make sense? ठीक है? So with this, रुको, एक और point discuss, एक और वो discuss कर सकते हैं. Wait, let me think अगर करना है तो. या छोड़े, एक क्वेश्चन लिखो तो, राइट डाउन अ क्वेश्चन, राइट डाउन अ क्वेश्चन. इमोशनल एक सेकेंड. Given the importance of inculcating emotional intelligence from an early age, given the importance of inculcating emotional intelligence from an early age, discuss how schools can play a prominent role in this regard. How schools can play an important role in this regard. बस ये कर लेते हैं यार, मुझे गट फीलिंग आ रही है कि ये इंपॉर्टेंट हो सकता है. ये कर लेते, ठीक है. ठीक है. नहीं भुवना, द लेक्चर विल नॉट बिकम टू शॉर्ट. आई हैव द एबिलिटी टू एक्सटेंड एनी लेक्चर. डोंट वरी, अगले क्लास के लिए कुछ और नया ढूंढ लेंगे. वी विल टेक फुल फ्लेज्ड लेक्चर. ठीक है. ये लास्ट पॉइंट, ये चीज एक करो, फिर हम कंक्लूड करेंगे. मुझे फिर आपको नेक्स्ट क्लास के लिए मैं बता देती हूँ. आई हैव टू टीच यू डिटर्मिनेंट्स ऑफ एथिक्स. वो बहुत सिंपल है, उसमें बस मुझे डिक्टेट कर देना है कि देयर आर डिफरेंट डिटर्मिनेंट्स ऑफ एथिक्स, जैसे गॉड, रिलीजन, लीडरशिप, फिलोसफी. तो मैं ये पॉइंटर्स दे दूंगी. फिर है व्हाट इज द एसेंस ऑफ एथिक्स, वो भी 2-4 लाइनों में है. दैट द एसेंस ऑफ एथिक्स इज वी नीड टू हैव कॉमन एथिकल प्रिंसिपल्स सो दैट द स्टेबिलिटी, ऑर्डर, पीस इज क्रिएटेड इन द सोसाइटी, राइट. और कुछ नहीं करना, वो इसलिए सिर्फ बताऊंगी क्योंकि सिलेबस में दे रखा है, अदरवाइज वो सब आपको पता है. जो मुद्दे की बात है ना, वो है डायमेंशंस ऑफ एथिक्स. एंड डायमेंशन ऑफ एथिक्स में डिस्क्रिप्टिव एथिक्स, मेटा एथिक्स, नॉर्मेटिव एथिक्स एंड application of ethics, right? So descriptive ethics hardly 10 minutes, meta ethics not even 1 minute. The main content is normative ethics, ठीक है, in which I will be talking about deontological, teleological. We will be talking about utilitarian approach and everything. Kantian ethics की बात करेंगे. तो अगर तो सर moral thinkers पढ़ाएंगे जो तो उसमें कवर होता है तो वी विल जस्ट डू अ रिविजन. अगर नहीं कवर होता है तो डिटेल में करेंगे. और एप्लीकेशन ऑफ एथिक्स में 1-2 चीजें बस बात करनी है, जैसे इन्वायरमेंटल एथिक्स वगैरह की. सो देन वी विल बी डन विद इट. तो है मेरे पास बहुत कंटेंट है पढ़ाने के लिए अगली क्लास में, ठीक है. सो या जल्दी से ये देखो. राइट डाउन इंपॉर्टेंस ऑफ डेवलपिंग इमोशनल इंटेलिजेंस एट एन अर्ली एज. इंपॉर्टेंस of developing emotional intelligence at an early age. First point. The heading is importance of developing emotional intelligence at an early age. It enables children to manage the relationship. It enables children to manage the relationships as they are as they are able to recognize and understand, as they are able to recognize and understand their emotions, as they are able to recognize and understand their emotions and empathize with others. They are able to recognize and understand their emotions and empathize with others. Empathize with others. Next. Emotional intelligence can help students. Emotional intelligence can help students develop self-motivation, effective communication skills, which are essential. I'll repeat, it can help students develop self-motivation and effective communication skills, which are essential to become confident learners, and improve their learning outcome, to become confident learners and improve their learning outcomes. Third, it also helps in reducing anxiety. It also helps in reducing anxiety and address behavioral issues with the students. To reduce anxiety and address behavioral issues with the students. Next heading, role of schools. Role of schools. Role of schools. Write down. Schools can help students to identify with their emotions, and remember positive self attribution. मैंने आपको role of socialization में पढ़ाया था, that why a child is not able to concentrate or why the child is feeling frustrated. So जो वो self attribution होता है, why are you behaving in a certain manner? The teachers, the schools can play a very significant role in enabling you to identify your emotions, to recognize your emotions, right? So by means of self attribution, and thus can help students to find the solution to the challenges, and thus help students to find the solutions to the challenges. Second, the school can help the child by means of communication, interaction, and help them overcome and help them overcome the negative feelings. Help them overcome negative feelings. Third, by placing effective channels of communication, by placing effective channels of communication, comma, by bridging the gap between teachers and students, by bridging the gap between teachers and students, they can make students more vocal about their emotions. They can make students more vocal about their emotions. If you are feeling sad, go tell your teacher, I'm feeling sad. Why are you feeling sad? Answer that. And if not, by interacting, you can actually find an answer that why are you feeling sad, and accordingly, collectively, you can find a solution to that. These small little things, if addressed at the right point of time at an early stage, it can actually help you to stabilize your personality in the later stages of life. Is that very clear? There are many of us, हम लोग बोल देते हैं ना कितनी आसानी से, अरे मेरा I am little short tempered, हाँ, otherwise तो ठीक है, but मेरे को थोड़ा सा problem है, मेरे को गुस्सा जल्दी आ जाता है. Right? I get irritated easily. And sometimes you don't even realize. You just snap out. Right? You just react in a very bad manner with your parents or siblings or friends. You know? So all of that needs to be understood. That there is some problem with the personality and it needs to be addressed. And it's okay. It can be addressed. So if we are feeling jealous too often, if we are getting angry too often, if there is a feeling of hatred, sometimes I've seen people have too strong extreme emotions कि ये गलत है, ये political party एकदम गलत है. अरे ठीक है यार, it's okay. है ना, मत भेद होना चाहिए, मन भेद नहीं होना चाहिए. You can have different take on the policies or the ideology, but that should not result in souring of the relationships. With anyone, with the family, with friends, with parents. आजकल तो दोस्तों में झगड़ा हो जाता है on political differences in political ideology. That should not be the case. Keep your emotions in check. Right? ठीक है? Sometimes later you will realize, if you give yourself some time to cool down, you will realize some minutes later only that thing was not even worth reacting. And you will be embarrassing yourself only. So it's better to control your emotions, to think that in what capacity and when one should react, and even it is worthy of your reaction or not. Reaction would not be the right word, response would be the right word. Is that very clear? So on this note, we will conclude our emotional intelligence as a topic. Will you be able to write the answers now? What is emotional intelligence? Building blocks of emotional intelligence. Can emotional intelligence be learned? What is the theoretical perspective? What are the traits of emotionally intelligent person? Emotional intelligence in Indian context. और क्या पढ़ा है? रोल ऑफ इमोशनल इंटेलिजेंस इन एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन, हाउ इनिशियली इट वाज परसीव, व्हाट इज द करंट रोल, व्हाट वाज एल्टन मेयो's perspective, Frederick Winslow Taylor, Weberin's bureaucracy, what are the negatives of impersonal management, however what is the necessity of impersonal management. अब कर लोगे सब कुछ, ठीक है? IQ EQ में क्या डिफरेंस है, निष्काम कर्म क्या है, भगवद गीता क्या कह रहा है, डिजायर और एंगर का क्या पर्सपेक्टिव है, ठीक है? So on this note, we will conclude your lecture, and last lecture एक मैं लूंगी next week, in which I have already told you what areas I am going to cover. ठीक है, चलो, टेक केयर पीपल। यार कल तो इंस्टीट्यूट ही बंद है, मैं कहाँ से क्लास ले लूंगी, कोई आएगा ही नहीं। वैसे तो मुझे क्लास घर से ही लेनी है, द सिस्टम इज हियर, बट देन देर इज नो, भैया जी नहीं होंगे ना, तो फिर वो सब एक्टिवेट कौन करेगा, वो कैमरा और वो सब। कल तो छुट्टी है, टेक रेस्ट, ठीक है? एक क्लास में कुछ नहीं होता, मतलब एक क्लास एक हफ्ते के लिए डिले हो जाएगी तो कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा अभी, ठीक है? इज दैट क्लियर? I want your feedback in one of our home assignment given yesterday. Jolly. Next class में post कर देना ना. So I'll give you the feedback. ठीक है? चलो. Bye people. Take care.